Hi everyone, and welcome to another Software and Internet Monthly Market Report brought to you by Sampford Advisors. Another really busy month in terms of dollars invested in the M&A markets, 24 billion. A lot of that driven by Zendesk's acquisition, which was acquired for 10.2 billion by Pimera and Hellman and Friedman. Um, Interestingly enough, with that transaction, it was a 6.4 times revenue multiple. So, if you'd asked us a few months ago, like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, what something like a business of that scale would have traded at, we would have said definitely higher than that multiple. So, we're going to talk about valuation trends here and some interesting dynamics that are happening in the M&A market over the last couple of months later on. But I think that's a very interesting sign of the overall trends in the M&A markets. And the next largest transaction that happened in the month was Siemens acquiring Brightly for 1.9 billion. In terms of overall volume, like number of deals represented by the line on this chart is down for the month, down for the year to date, totally expected based on everything we've seen and nothing unnormal there. Obviously the number of dollars deployed into software M&A continues to rise, and we're way ahead of 2021, which was a record on its own. So this year is going to be a really strong year in terms of dollars deployed, but we're going to see a bit more of a normalization in terms of the number of transactions that are taking place. This is, valuation variation that we've talked a lot about here. The bottom of these candlesticks is representing the 25th percentile of valuations, and the top is the 75th percentile. And we've been talking a lot since the pandemic hit about the spread between the 25th and the 75th percentiles and how wide it's become on certain quarters. We saw that even as late as or as recently as the fourth quarter and the first quarter of 21 and 22 respectively. And what we did see in the second quarter is a significantly tightening of those of the 25th and the 75th percentile. So we're seeing, I think where what we're seeing this at this point in time is that those transactions that were happening at 20, 30, 40 times revenue are not going to happen in this type of market, or are going to be exceptionally rare. And they're definitely not happening with 10 or 20 million of ARR, which is what was happening late last year and early this year. So there's definitely been a tightening in valuations in the M&A market, and it can really be seen here. If we look back at this chart at the end of the first quarter, the SaaS multiple on average was 13.4 times, and that's dropped for the first half of the year to 6.5. So a significant correction in terms of that, and bringing it much more in line with where we've seen the past, right? It brings it basically in line with 2019 pre-pandemic levels. And I think that's what we're going to see here is that, while valuations have normalized, and they're down from abnormal peaks, and they're much more in line with where the market was going pre-pandemic. And I think that's going to be pretty consistent here for the next few months. In terms of the number of transactions, we've been talking about this a lot. We always talked about in late 20 and most of 2021 that we were averaging 160 to 190 deals a month. That is definitely corrected, and so we can see like the last 5 months we've kind of been in that 120 to 130 range, and June was no exception to that. So I think this is pretty much going to continue like this. There might be the odd month where it spikes above that level, but it's going to be pretty consistent here on, and this is very consistent again with pre-pandemic levels that were averaging between 100 and 120 deals a month. On the VC side of stuff, another busy month here, but similar sort of trends. 5 billion invested in the month across 400 transactions. The biggest deals, Metropolitis raised 167 million, and Shield AI raised 165 million. So still some very large transactions happening for later stage VC-backed companies. In terms of level of activity, we're basically shaping up that we're going to be very consistent with last year. And a couple of months ago, it was looking like we were going to be way ahead of last year. So I think you're definitely seeing a bit of a slowdown in the VC market as well. And that's very evidenced here as well. And then lastly, on valuations, these have continued to spike. I would say, if you look at the late stage deals that's still happening at 42 times, I think this has to normalize. Like everything we're hearing about the VC market it's a lot softer than it was 6 months ago. So we'll keep an eye on this trend, and I would expect it to come down from here. Anyway, have a great month and see you next month.